Emma, why the fuck are you yelling at Mom? That is not fixing anything. I'm just frustrated. She talks, she needs something all the time, and I just can't fulfill her every wish. I know it is so hard, but she's your mom. Then you have to respect her. It's easy for you to say. Backing up, you are not my biological child as I. What do you mean? Your mom took care of like she were my very own, and I am proud to continue supporting you in taking care of her. That's not the same thing. Knock it off, Emma. The sect request header thing. I'm just like, you don't have to be yelling at Mama, and that's not fair for her. Shut up. You think you are, huh? Emma, please calm down. You're being unreasonable. Oh yeah. And you're in my house. Get out. You're not welcome here. I'm Chloe, married to Ethan for over 10 years. We have both been best friends since high school. Seriously, marrying this guy we got hitched in late 30s, early 40s couple let's all just go/raise a glass of wine together was the second best decision I ever made. He add data money he makes selling it dear keep us here. None o' this. Mean you leave the use less. Make that 95% happy. I grew up in an orphanage and I went without a lot of things as a kid. I missed out on the kind of love and encouragement most kids receive from their parents, this thing that I always knew was supposed to mine. Well, he made a liar out of me when I met my husband. He taught me the meaning of family, and we made a beautiful life together. Lucas and I have raised our son, Oliver boy, to blooming a very gentleman like his father. And if there was one thing that made my husband even more of a blessing to me, it would have been his parents. Fortunately, my in-laws took me under their wings and treated me like the daughter they never had. They never excluded me, were always nice and respectful. They have given me so much love and support for as long as I can remember. And my father-in-law died a couple years ago. For the entire family, it was a difficult period. It was so hard to see my husband and his mother in such pain. My father-in-law was a gentle, kind man and everyone who knew him felt his loss. She knew how to gather her strength back, and she tried, but my mother never returned with me. But then she ultimately shifted and settled with Emma, my sister-in-law, who was in the same city. While it was a hard thing for her to do, we also knew that this would be the best thing too. We remained in touch regardless of her distance and tried to visit whenever we could. We called her every weekend to make sure she was okay. To us it was important she knew we loved her, and that, wherever life took her, there would always be a place here for Irene in our family. The day came when visiting my mother-in-law, I walked into an argument. Only Emma, my middle brother's wife, him, was screaming at our mother. I couldn't even distinguish what and so loud and angry that she was saying. I saw the hurt and pain in my mother-in-law's eyes, and it broke my heart. Emma was on the verge of shoving our mother, and I stepped in to stop it. Emma, why are you screaming at Mom? That won't solve anything. I'm so frustrated. All she does is want, and I can't have to stick around fulfilling her every wish. I know it may be hard, but she is still your mom. Man, you gotta have some respect for her. It's easy for you to say, I'm the one daughter of her flesh and blood, not you. What do you mean? And despite all the ways that I fit in with your mom, I have said pass on you keeping him, and you pick up money from a whore. That's not the same thing. You're not as intimidating and smug yourself, Emma. I'm just trying to help, and it is unfair of you to get mad at your mom. Shut up, Joe. You're the one that thinks she's your favorite, huh? Emma, please calm down. You're being unreasonable. Oh yeah. And you're in my house. Get out. You're not welcome here. Emma finally lost it, and I knew, closed my books, quickly called Mother to come outside with me get coffee. It was not, of course, about the coffee. I needed to talk to her, one-on-one, just so I could begin an investigation into what had happened between her and my husband. Emma, however, and perhaps trying a bit to passive-aggressively diffuse it, gave me the most condescending look you have ever seen as she got up out of there. It was like our mother's well-being didn't even matter to her. My mother-in-law used the argument to tell me that she was really uncomfortable living with Emma. Emma just wanted her out of the picture and had been inventing reasons to be angry at her. My mother-in-law wrote it off as a mistake and didn't want to be a burden, so she never told us anything about that letter. She only dropped a flower vase that day and just created some cracks in it. But she did, and you almost screamed in her face, Emma. That shocked me and made my blood boil. Emma could never do that to her mother. In that instant, I knew exactly what needed to be done. He goes and tells Emma all this. I had spoken to my husband about it. Husband and I gleefully brought my mother into our home to help, as we had really missed her being a part of our household. We had to get used to it at first, but we made the best of our new situation really quickly. I really missed my mother-in-law and could tell that she was a lot happier about being where I lived. By this point, Oliver was still pretty young and loved having his Aunt Sophia there too. He can't cuss with her or hear what she says. Not that looking after our mom was a cakewalk. Then, I put my dream on hold for it. I had always dreamed of opening my own nice little cafe, and I thought perhaps that looking after Mom might set back the clock a bit on me doing so. However, I was doing that for her and our family happiness. I never felt like she was just my husband's mom, fair daughter. She is mine too. For Emma, on the other hand, she turned a deaf ear to us with as much pity. She never once called to see how our mom or anyone were doing, and she never showed. Yet make regular trips to visit Emma anyways, albeit with a soaring relationship. She was difficult to be around in the aftermath, still a lot of tension between us. But for our mother, we tried to keep the peace. Even still, no matter how hard we tried, nothing seemed good enough in Emma's eyes. One day Emma come to see us and tell everyone that for a long time we have been abusing our mother. Those were the charges that surprised me. They are totally false. The only problem is that my mother-in-law was still alive and healthy, nicely taken care of by us. But Emma would not listen, and she told me and my sister that we were bad children to our mother. She didn't stop there either. She was going to spread her lies about us and encourage our neighbors and friends alike that we should be reported to the police. I was mortified and chagrined that she had the nerve to go so low. The police did eventually show up to our house questioning accusations that Emma made, and after speaking with us as well as my mother-in-law, they were able to easily see there was no merit to what she claimed. Then they departed harmlessly, but the damage had been done. Emma was no longer welcomed in our lives after that incident. She had stepped over a line that could not be retraced. She also decided she was going back to Chicago, and then of course wanted our mother-in-law, who had already been taking care of doped-up Mark there, into it all again. We were devastated that our own family could be ripped apart like this, but we had to say no. We had selling track on Emma and couldn't rely on her anymore. On that evening, mother-in-law made sure Oliver was soundly asleep before she tried to talk seriously with us. So that was the reason behind all of a sudden Emma wanted her to be back there. She must have an idea for this as well. I was shocked, scared, and intrigued all at the same time. What do you mean, Mom? What's going on? Emma eyed the even later inheritance of your father, and honestly she believes that keeping me alive long enough will allow her to claim it. That's ridiculous. She doesn't even look after you. She is just in it for the money. I know, but Bull Inn is very persuasive, and she has been trying to get me to live with her. That's terrible. Why would she do that? It is all about money, unfortunately. I literally had no idea what we were inheriting. I'm sorry, honey. We were keeping it a secret. We had a both to read you and Emma. You should be able to get at the money on your 30th birthday. It was meant for your future little family. Mum's eyes were wet when she talked about our dear late father. I was emotional too. That mama deserved a big, warm hug and all the gratitude in the world for raising her child with so much love. There was something about it that gave her the strength to keep speaking. Your sister found out about the fund. We screwed up since that day, Something changed in her. It was so painful. Anil Kapoor and Shridevi to get her married, doing everything for money. Whenever I spoke with her, she would want to know how was she supposed to get into that fund earlier. Mom, I'm sorry you've been going through it by yourself. Your little sister was refusing to take her medicine. She still is. I love her, but is she really just that kind of person? Those looks were exchanged by my husband and me. And we both thought the same thing. Emma was about to turn 30 by then. She desperately wanted that fund, and thus, she made a decision to take it as fast as possible. But Mom, I don't get it. If she was getting the fund anyway, why all that trouble? All she has to do is wait. You just want to stay here with us, don't you? Of course, sweetheart, but not so fast. Wait, no. She thought I was holding the purse strings too tight there. What? Why would she think that? You actually cut her out. No, of course I didn't. But by her screaming at me and mistreating, she thought I did. Well, the reality is your dad was also the one person who knew what his was said. He handled all the finances, and I was thrilled to not have a part. But aren't the one Emma thinks you are? Yeah, and she thinks I'm hating on her when I talk to. Money was the only thing that mattered to her now. Mother, I'm very sorry that you are going through this battle. We will try to keep your place away from all harms. There was a heartfelt hug between myself and Brittany. At that point, our little trio with Oliver took her snake up to be one of the best child products for travel, regardless of whether we got any funds or not. I was scared but relieved that Mom finally trusted us enough to tell the story. Having to bear so much on your own must have been a serious strain. After that, we saw Emma all the time, and she incessantly pestered our mother to live with her. She began to hang out at our house, trying to win us over with various upkeep promises, that she would be a better caretaker of my mother, or she will never yell at her again. But our mother kept turning us in, denying that she lived there. Emma was true to form, and did whatever she could as soon as it became apparent that our mom wasn't giving back her trust. Emma had come over one day, and this time she decided to start borrowing a little money. She promised that she was only asking for $200,000 and swore never to seek our help with anything else ever again. We asked her what the psychological consultation was for. She said that it is personal and refused to explain. Of course, none of us had that kind of money. We had no idea how much we would be receiving from our father's fund. Plus, we had a kid to raise. Emma had turned into a great burden on our mother, and I was so bothered by it. As reality settled with my loving sister, she was receiving help from us, and Emma, we really needed her to stay away because she was starting to spiral out of control in both mental and physical health terms. Just when I was down in the dumps and beating myself up, my husband saved me. He reassured me that he was going to resolve the issue. Emma stopped coming to our door a few days later. I interrogated my husband, who didn't tell me all the details of his activities. He said he was able to scrape together some money from others and went into his savings account. He never wanted his sister to be a burden on us, and he then took things in hand by himself. On the one hand, I was glad that it wasn't about me, but on the other, I just felt really sorry for him. I most wished that he didn't have the stress of all the financial issues to deal with, but not a lot we could do. At least Emma did get out of our hair. Ethan and I have been struggling for a long time. We were just about scraping by financially. He ended up using a loan to pay for some of his living expenses, and Ethan lost more hours because he now has even less money. I took almost all of my saving dedicated to the cafe, and Ethan apologized so much. I would have liked to lighten him up a bit, but that wasn't going to happen. We had also agreed that we would survive. Several months later, and a miracle landed in our laps. It was my 27-year-old husband's birthday, and we had made up our minds to keep it low-key with a simple party at home. All of a sudden, we were told by the lawyer responsible for my late father that fund was available for us to claim. When we went to the lawyer's house, Ethan and I were confused as all hell, so wanted answers. We were completely shocked to discover that our father had left us over $1 million in his will. None of us had any idea that he was hoarding away this huge sum over the years. He was doing some very smart real estate investments, so it is amazing to find out how much of an awesome legacy he left for us. As we started dealing with our father's estate, some disturbing information on Emma came to light. Lo and behold, she had been squandering a great deal of her own funds by means of gambling. All the while she was so fish to hide that reality from all of us. It turned out our father had found about her addiction, and he'd threatened to write Sophia off the will if she didn't do anything about it. Her recent actions made us realize she was not as assisted as we had thought. Maybe that was why our father cut her off too, giving us the money 3 years sooner than he had intended. When it turned out that she did lose her inheritance for good, Emma was enraged. He wrote a check to keep her from returning and asking for more money, thought just what she had received was not deserved in the first place. Even worse, she also spent all of this money on gambling. We were mad as hell, but now we knew, or thought, that she had a problem, so this is where they come in, I suppose. She was taken to a place that we were told was akin to rehab. For my part, I was finally able to make real the ambition of opening a coffee shop. I was lucky. I used the money left to me on inheritance rights, and with that put a down payment on great space and got what gear I needed started. It was a lot of work, but I loved every minute of it. I put a great deal of time into developing my recipes and designing our store to feel warm for anyone who came in. This was also super exciting news for my little family. My own husband did the books and marketing with me, while Oliver loved to stop in after school whenever possible and help behind the counter. It was also a beautiful scene seeing our mother making and decorating the place. It was a real family effort, and we shared the same sense of accomplishment. Oh, and thank the good Lord up above, our dear father was to be commended in making it all possible.
I was at rock bottom after my wife left me. It was a sweet woman with dimples who rescued me when I was questioning my own purpose in life. At that time, I never imagined our relationship would turn out this way. My name's Logan. After graduating from college, I landed a job at a top-tier company. Typically, new employees would be assigned to a branch office near the headquarters after their training period, but I was assigned directly to the headquarters. The job was rigorous. Only good results were acceptable. Determined not to fall behind my seniors, I strived hard and rapidly improved my skills. I graduated from a prestigious university, always loved studying, and aimed for the top. Perhaps it was sheer luck that brought me this far. However, these two qualifications seemed to naturally boost my image. I'm fairly tall but have a pretty average appearance. Fashion isn't exactly my strong suit, but thanks to my credentials, I often got approached by women. My 20s went by in a whirlwind, with both work and personal life keeping me on my toes. After working at the company for several years, I was 30. Professionally, I didn't have any official title yet, but I felt I was on the brink of becoming a supervisor. On the personal front, I started dating someone a friend introduced during a night out, and just last year, we tied the knot. We moved into a reasonably spacious and stylish apartment with a great view, and were thoroughly enjoying our newly life. With my salary, we were comfortable and considering our plans to have children. Due to the physical toll and future considerations, my wife chose to be a full-time housewife. Things at work were going smoothly, and every day I would return to a home where my wife was eagerly waiting. Everything seemed to be sailing smoothly, at least up to this point. Then, one day, a transfer notice came in. The new location was a rural branch office, quite the contrast from the bustling city I was accustomed to. The notice did mention supervisor, so it was undeniably a promotion. But having assumed I'd stay at the headquarters, I was visibly shaken. I headed home and broke the news to my wife, but there was no joy in the promotion for me. The first thing out of her mouth was, "Why such a countryside? What's going on?" I was told by HR that they needed my skills at the new location. Even after relaying this to my wife, she seemed far from convinced. Moreover, the new place would require a move. While my wife was struggling to come to terms with it all, we didn't have much time before the move. So we started looking for a new place to live and went for some viewings. Throughout the day, as we visited multiple places, seeing the town and the buildings, which looked like shabby apartments if we were in the city, Her mood progressively soured. On a whim, we drove by the new branch office. The sight of its worn-out walls against the backdrop of a fading town wasn't encouraging. She was speechless, just staring at this place she couldn't accept. The continuous unsettling events and our differing views couldn't align. We ended the day with just the viewings. Once we got home, discussions turned into arguments. Sure, it's labeled as a promotion, but isn't this just a demotion in disguise? If you work there, you'll never get a promotion or raise. We could be living below our means for the rest of our lives, my wife complained in tears. Our discussions reached a deadlock, and before we knew it, moving day arrived. We decided to keep our electronic appliances in the city apartment for now. I took only my belongings and moved into the new apartment alone for the time being. The plan was for my wife to visit during weekends to see how things played out. However, after several weeks, she still hadn't made peace with the situation, saying, "I can't live here. I can't have the life I want with a husband working in a branch office with a dubious chance at a raise. I don't want it." After being told that by my wife, we ended up divorcing. I guess it was inevitable. Time for a fresh start and to focus on my job. That was my mindset. But the weight of the word divorce hit hard. Often at work, my hands would stop and my thoughts would spiral. I remembered how homely my ex-wife was, how she always kept the house clean and had delicious meals waiting for me. Just hearing her cheerful welcome home would wash all the fatigue away. I thought I'd be fine living alone, but with the divorce, it's lonely and tough. Can't live the ideal life in the countryside. What was my worth after all? I sighed loudly, even though I was at work. Seeing my distress, some colleagues, feeling sorry for me, invited me out for drinks. "You're much more approachable than the previous supervisor. You're doing so well for someone so young. You're sharp and precise, just like when you were at the headquarters." Even some older colleagues were present, and they all refrained from bringing up the divorce, instead encouraging and praising me. With that warmth, I was re-energized. Time has a way of healing things. After a while, I became accustomed to my new life here and dedicated myself to the responsibilities at hand. Around that time, our branch was scheduled for an occasional inspection. "Logan, long time no see. I'll be here for the week, so let's work well together." Hearing that familiar voice and turning around, I was met by Sarah, a former colleague from the headquarters. Though Sarah is younger than me, her fearless determination is well recognized, making her an adept career woman, especially in the field of inspections. She has the demanding task of traveling to branches nationwide, constantly on the move. Still, Sarah never complains and takes on her duties with unwavering stamina. I've always held her in high regard. "Sarah, have you been well?" I couldn't help but feel a sense of camaraderie. My voice grew louder with happiness. "Oh, my apologies, I should address you as Miss Connor here, right?" Given our current positions, Sarah now held a higher position than I did. After straightening up, I greeted her again, to which she replied with a playful chuckle. "Don't be so formal." She then nudged me with her elbow just like she used to. When Sarah laughs, adorable dimples form on her cheeks. When it comes to inspections, everyone tends to get a bit tense, but thanks to Sarah's charming demeanor, the atmosphere always settles into a comfortable state, allowing everyone to work as usual. It's quite remarkable. That night, I decided to go out to dinner with Sarah. She was staying at a hotel nearby, and since she was planning on dining out, she asked for restaurant recommendations. Even though it was just the two of us having a meal, our conversation was mostly about work. In such a relaxed setting, we could discuss matters we wouldn't have time for at the office, making the time fly by fruitfully. As our meal and conversation neared their end, I noticed Sarah glancing at her watch. "I'm sorry, we've been here quite a while, haven't we? We should probably head out. Your wife might be getting worried," said Sarah as she began to prepare to leave. Seeing the look on my face, she tilted her head in confusion. Well, the thing is, I then shared with her that I had gotten divorced. I went into the reasons as well, and as I spoke, Sarah listened attentively, nodding from time to time. She then casually remarked, "You know, with your capabilities, I'd expect you to be back at the main office soon." Surprised by her candid statement, I asked, "What do you mean?" Sarah responded, "It's probably a temporary placement. Once you've turned this branch around, I bet they'll want you back at headquarters." Her tone made it sound like a given. I was curious about where she had gotten such information. Sarah chuckled and said, "Don't underestimate a woman's network." I was all ears, completely absorbed in the conversation. The distance from the city hustle, the divorce, and even though my duties might have been lighter than at the headquarters, perhaps my spirits had been down without me realizing. I had perhaps underestimated myself. Seeing this, Sarah laughed and said, "Do you even realize how talented you are? Your skills are well known at the headquarters. And of course, I'm aware too." She ended on her usual cheerful note, "You better keep up the good work," and gave me a pat on the shoulder. The pain lingered, but it rekindled my spirit completely. I'll return to the main office someday. With that resolve, I worked even harder. Time flew by, and before I knew it, I was 35. "Thank you, sir," one colleague said. "I'll miss you. I hope to be just like you someday." I received a large bouquet and shook hands with everyone in my department. I worked exceptionally hard as a supervisor, leading our team to great success. I also mentored my successor, who then moved up to a managerial position. In recognition of my accomplishments, I have now returned to work at the headquarters. Even though I was returning to the same department as before, I got a promotion. I'd be joining as a department head. The bustling city atmosphere felt familiar. While the air quality was so-so, I've always loved the vibrant energy of the city. I took a few days off to handle my move and settle down before officially starting at the main office. My colleagues at the headquarters, knowing it would be hard to coordinate once I got busy, decided to throw me a welcome back party during this break. They booked the city's finest upscale restaurant for the celebration, combining 2 private rooms just behind the counter seats. Seeing all those familiar faces and sharing the joy of working together again naturally brought smiles and lively conversations. Just as I thought the day would end on a high note, something unexpected happened. When I looked towards the counter to place an additional order, a customer walking in caught my eye. Looking closer, I realized it was my ex-wife, and she wasn't alone. She was with a man. Our eyes met, and she looked as startled as I felt, freezing in place. The man noticed and asked my ex-wife, "Who's that?" Snapping back to reality, she gave a wry smile and replied with a sigh, "Oh, that's my ex-husband." The man then said, "Oh, that guy," and looked at me with a smirk. There wasn't much left to say. She seemed to feel the same, promptly turning her back to me, and both of them took seats at the counter. I didn't let it bother me and continued chatting with my colleagues. However, on my way back from the restroom, my ex-wife called out to me. "Why are you here?" she asked with a cold tone in her voice. "I came back," I replied in the same tone. She laughed dismissively and remarked, "After being demoted, you sure had the guts to come back. You probably screwed up again, didn't you?" Giving me a pitiful look, the man sitting beside her seemed to be asking her about me. "Graduating from a prestigious college and then getting demoted makes no sense," he sneered. Irritated by their comments, I said, "Well then, ready to leave." However, my ex-wife quickly pulled the man close to her and gloated, "He's quite impressive, isn't he?" Without me asking, she began to brag about how he works for a top-tier company, how talented he is, and how his future is so much brighter than mine. Every now and then, she'd throw in a resentful comment about me. From time to time, her bitterness towards me mixed in. As for the man, while he said, "Don't talk like that, it's sad for your ex-husband," he didn't seem entirely displeased with her praises. He chuckled condescendingly at me with every nod he gave. I tried to tune them out, looking for the right moment to head back to my seat. Just then, a colleague heading to the restroom stopped in his tracks. "Hey, isn't that you, Jake?" My colleague recognized the man and addressed him. "Oh, it's a pleasure." "Quite the coincidence," Jake responded. It seemed they knew each other. They started chatting lightly, but the man kept stealing glances at me. "Wait, do you work with this guy?" Pointing at me, he asked my colleague. I wondered if they seemed close. My colleague looked surprised that the man didn't recognize me. "Hey, you can't talk to him like that. He's our new department head. And so young and impressive, you should greet him. I mean, seriously, this man, Mr. Stern, is something else. He's the youngest ever in our company's history to be promoted to this position." My colleague gleefully shared this, briefing me on the details about this Jake guy before taking off. Turns out this man is a sales rep from a major supplier who frequents our department. After hearing about me from my colleague, the man whispered, "Is Logan the one I've heard rumors about?" His face progressively paled. My ex-wife seemed momentarily stunned but soon snapped, "Wait a minute, you mean he's higher up than you?" and confronted the man with a frustrated look. Still pale-faced, The man muttered something about needing to greet me properly but was taken aback by my ex-wife's rebuke. There's no point in sticking around to watch their spat. I locked eyes with the man, saying, "So you're Jake, right? I'll remember that," with a pleasant smile. I made my way back to my seat, but I could still hear voices from behind. Glancing toward the bar, I saw my ex-wife and Jake having an ongoing dispute. When our eyes met, Jake quickly looked away, urging my ex-wife, "Let's leave now." He settled the bill with a face portraying sheer frustration. My ex-wife gave me one last glance before slamming the door on her way out. Soon after, I returned to my dream position at the company's headquarters. From day one, with a hectic schedule, I felt that old buzz, making me even more passionate about my job. Sometime later, I bumped into Jake at work. He immediately approached me, deeply bowing and apologizing for his rudeness that day. I told him I didn't mind at all anymore, but given his sincere regret, I offered, "Want to grab some coffee?" After a couple of sips, he let out a long sigh, finally appearing relaxed. We made small talk about work, but the conversation naturally shifted to my ex-wife. Apparently, they had a falling out. Whether it was her pride or something else, she ended up breaking things off with Jake. I couldn't help but be slightly baffled. Was she so set on snagging a well-educated, high-ranking man? I felt sorry for my ex-wife too. Even though she is beautiful, cheerful, and friendly with many good qualities, she seemed lost. Though Jake came off as a jerk that day, I'd heard from others that he's genuinely talented. I cheered him on, telling him to keep his head high. After work, as I stepped out of the office, my phone rang. The screen read Sarah. Before I could finish saying hello, Sarah started talking. "Hey, it's me. I'm coming back this Sunday." Her voice was as bubbly as ever. Since that inspection, Sarah and I had kept in touch. At first, our conversations were mostly about work. Sarah would often give me a piece of her mind, always offering emotional support. I think the reason I never gave up and aimed higher was probably because of her presence. "I know you better than anyone else. Have some confidence and just do it," she would say on the phone. Even though she's younger than me, it makes me laugh, wondering who's really the older one. Then on Sunday, I waited for Sarah at the JFK airport lobby. When Sarah saw me, her face lit up with a broad smile, and she hurried over. "I'm back," she said cheerfully, and Sarah hugged me. Being embraced in such a public place, I was taken aback and embarrassingly stuttered, "Welcome back." I tentatively put my arm around Sarah's back, not sure how to react in the situation. Then Sarah looked up at me with an expectant expression and said, "Don't you have something else to say?" I could feel everyone's eyes on us. It was hard to admit, but I looked at her and said, "I love you, Sarah." But she teased, "Is that all? Isn't there more?" making a mischievous face and urging me to say more. I felt like my face was on fire, but I knew I had to say it now. So I gathered my courage and proposed to Sarah right there. As Sarah and I communicated frequently, we became closer. We both knew our feelings for each other were growing. But with Sarah traveling to various branches nationwide and having long overseas business trips, we hardly got a chance to meet. During this time, I once confessed my feelings over the phone, but she told me she wanted to hear it in person. In time, we officially got married and became husband and wife. "Hey, look, I found this adorable mug and just had to buy it." Sarah seemed to have sneakily hidden it among the moving boxes, intending to use it from today. She happily laid the two out side by side and smiled. The new apartment we got for our life together with Sarah has a high-rise view, making me feel even more motivated. She wanted to settle down and had expressed her wish to retire early from her job. But they didn't want to let go of such a valuable employee. After taking a short break, she decided to work part-time at the headquarters. As for me, my role as a department head keeps me extremely busy. It helps that Sarah understands my job. She's good at supporting me and has been a tremendous help. "Come on, put your back into it and have a great day." Sarah playfully smacks my back as I head out. I think she treats me a little rough, but when she does this, the day goes strangely well. "I'll be off now. Take care, Sarah," I tell her, and as I leave, I can't help but notice how her dimples make her smile even more endearing. Today, I have to keep working hard to ensure that smile never fades. I can't always rely on her support. This new chapter of our life is bound to be busy, but I remind myself never to take my wife for granted. My wife, Samantha, spoke so softly it was barely audible, her face turning a deep shade of red. Seeing her so bashful took me by surprise. I found myself utterly captivated by her. But our relationship wasn't always like this. My name is Jack Andrews. I'm just an ordinary guy working for a medical device company. I once had big dreams and pursued them with all my might. But eventually I had to give up, realizing I lacked the talent. My parents had high hopes for me and always encouraged me to follow my own path, which led me to where I am now. Without dreams or ambitions, I felt empty, like I had no purpose. Some might say I should get married and start a family, but I'm still a bachelor with no girlfriend. It pains me that I can't give my mother the joy of grandchildren. But I have no choice. I can't give them what I don't have. Next week, I need to visit my parents. They live in the same state, just a short train ride away. They called me in a serious tone, saying they had important matters to discuss. Knowing my laid-back parents rarely asked me to come home, I sensed something significant had happened. I decided to comply with whatever favor they might ask, wanting to be a good son in other ways since I couldn't provide grandchildren. The day arrived and I returned to my childhood home after a long time. My parents run a diner with a shop on the first floor and their home on the second. As a child, I used to boast about taking over the shop, but I lacked the talent for cooking and gave up on that dream, making me hesitant to return home. However, it was strange to see the shop sign not out. They should be open every day except Thursday, where they closed just for today. I walked in, calling out, "I'm home, Dad." "Mom, I'm back." Both of them were there, looking thinner and paler than I remembered. "What happened to you two?" I asked, hurrying to their side. They explained, heads bowed. A family restaurant had opened nearby, causing their diner to lose customers. Despite their best efforts, the customers only dwindled. Dad discovered that anonymous rumors were spreading about our diner being dirty and infested with cockroaches, tarnishing our reputation. Despite their efforts to dispel these rumors, business continued to decline, leading to debt and eventually making it impossible to keep the diner open. Even if we close the diner, the debt remains. Worst case, we might have to sell our home, Dad said, tears of frustration in his eyes, his voice shaking. I had never seen him like this. "Can't something be done, at least about the debt?" I asked. "The debt is $80,000. We're looking for a place to get a loan," Dad replied, hanging his head in defeat. He must have exhausted all his options. Desperately, he confessed the situation to me. In desperation, I turned to my mom. "Mom, can't you ask for help from your friends?" "Well, I did talk to them," she replied. "Actually, one of my friends mentioned she might be able to help. But there's a condition." I leaned in, eager to hear more. Regardless of the condition, it was worth listening if help was on the table. Yet Mom kept her head down, hesitant to elaborate. Encouraged by Dad, Mom finally broke her silence. The condition: she proposed marriage to her daughter. "What?" I exclaimed. "You know, I used to go to that flower arrangement class, right? That's where I met her. Her husband is a CEO of a leading company, and their daughter apparently doesn't have anyone she's seeing. According to Mom, this daughter, Samantha, is shy and hasn't been able to find a partner, even though she wants to get married. This friend of mine seems to be very family-oriented and said she would be willing to help us out if you marry Samantha and become part of their family. But Jack has the right to choose his own partner. I don't want to deprive him of his future because of our debts," Dad protested. "No, I'll take the deal," I said, making my decision. I couldn't take over the family business, and I couldn't protect this place that had always been precious to me since I was born. So if getting married is what it takes to save the business, I'll do it. After all, she's a CEO's daughter. It's a rare opportunity for an ordinary guy like me to have a connection with someone like that. There was a part of me that thought it was a lucky break, a chance to help the business and maybe gain a partner and some connections. There weren't any downsides for me, so I decided to go ahead with it. But the day I met Samantha, I understood why she hadn't found a husband. She must be shy indeed. Her gaze occasionally wandered away, unable to look directly at me. On the other hand, I couldn't take my eyes off her. To be more accurate, I couldn't take my eyes off her figure. Her double chin was so prominent it looked like she didn't have a neck. She lacked a waistline, no curves, just a cylindrical shape. If I were to compare her shape to something, it would be to a certain blue, round-shaped robot from the future. I don't like to criticize people's appearances, but I have to admit she made a strong impression. If you asked me if I wanted to marry her, I'd say no without hesitation. But I wasn't in a position to say that right now. Nice to meet you, I'm Samantha. I'm Jack. Pleasure to meet you. Samantha shyly responded and made her greeting. I nodded in response, and after some discussion, we officially became engaged. A month later, we got married and officially became a couple. There was some discussion about living together, but marriage was a non-negotiable condition for repaying the debt. I had no reason to refuse. Perhaps understanding the situation, Samantha suggested that we don't force ourselves to live like a typical married couple but come together in our own way. So we ended up sharing a bedroom but not a bed. The so-called wedding night has not yet taken place. With Samantha's physique, sharing a bed would honestly be a squeeze. We were both used to living alone, so it was a bit awkward at first. But it seemed that Samantha had always aspired to be a typical wife. Good morning. I tried making breakfast. If you like, please have some, she said just before I left for work. Samantha, who had gotten up early, had prepared breakfast. Chicken soup, fish, and omelette. A hearty meal. The aroma of the food tickled my nostrils, stimulating my empty stomach. This is delicious. Even though I quit, I once aspired to be a chef. I have a discerning palate for food, so I can say with confidence Samantha's soup is truly delicious. And it's not just the soup. The seasoning of the fish is just right, and the omelette, its color, shape, and taste, are all perfect. The quality is as good as any restaurant. This is amazing. It must have been tough to make breakfast of this level, right? It's delicious, I said, engrossed in my breakfast. Samantha's face gradually turned red. I'm glad, I said, feeling a swell of pride. Be confident. I'm a diner's owner's son after all. Samantha, you're a great cook. With that, I finished my meal, not hiding my genuine opinion. Samantha shyly hid her face behind the tray she was holding. Well, I've never served my homemade food to anyone before. I'm happy though. She appeared extremely shy, and seeing Samantha genuinely happy was adorable. They say don't judge a book by its cover, and that might be true. Samantha, aside from her looks, has a very playful and adorable personality. She's so domestic that you forget she's a CEO's daughter, and she almost flawlessly manages household chores. Except, it seems that she's not very good at doing laundry. The other day she ended up turning all my shirts blue. She seems to still be getting used to sorting by colors. I'm sorry. They've turned completely blue, haven't they? I've made that mistake before too, I said, trying to comfort her. A mistake that would depress me if I had made it somehow becomes forgivable when Samantha does it. I slowly fell in love with Samantha. At first, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. But by the time we had been living together for 6 months, I knew. One day, Samantha came home crying. What am I going to do? The doctor said I might not be able to have a baby one day. I can guess why. I don't necessarily expect us to have children, so don't cry so much, I tried to console her. But with my current figure, you won't be able to hold me, Jack, she said, choking up. Emotionally, I am perfectly able to love Samantha. But it's pretty tough with her 200-pound figure. While I was struggling for words, Samantha seemed to make up her mind, looking at me determinedly. I decided I'm going on a diet. I want to live a long life, and I want children. Also, I want to walk proudly by your side, Jack. I can't stop Samantha when she says this while blushing. Samantha made up her mind, and thus she began her diet. Exercise is good for health, so I also joined her in the effort. I was just starting to worry about my waistline. I suppose I've put on some happy weight. It can't be helped. Samantha's cooking is too delicious. We went jogging together before work and walking every night. But as expected, it's not easy to keep up. I can't do it anymore, Samantha whined. I won't spoil you, I said firmly. This was a promise between me and Samantha. If she felt like giving up, I would be there to support her. So when Samantha looked ready to give up, I proposed something. Hey Samantha, I have a suggestion. What is it? How about we buy a dress? Here's my idea. I will buy the dress that you want to wear the most right now, and you will work hard on your diet so that you can wear that dress. It's easier for people to have a goal in front of them. That might be a great idea. I've never worn a dress before, Samantha said, getting on board with the idea. Additionally, we decided to separate our bedrooms. This was because Samantha wanted to do stretches and yoga at night. If I'm being watched, it's embarrassing, she said. When she makes a request like that, who am I to refuse? And so Samantha continued to put forth great effort. Half a year later, by the time we had been married for a year, Samantha had become astonishingly beautiful. I hadn't realized it because she was overweight, but she originally had a good figure. With her chest and butt standing out and her waist slimmed down, Samantha, now with a great figure, looked like a different person. Her weight dropped to the goal weight of 117 pounds, and Samantha came running to me beaming with joy. "Jack, I'm going to try on that dress today." "Really?" "I'm going to change in the bedroom. Wait for me here," Samantha said, heading to her bedroom. Come to think of it, for the past year, we hadn't slept in the same bed, had we? With the way Samantha is now, we could probably share a bed. In fact, isn't this the first time I've been allowed into her bedroom since she lost weight? Thinking like that, it felt almost like our wedding night. After all, Samantha had always strictly kept me out of her bedroom. "It's your first time in my room, isn't it?" she teased. "Hey, I'm looking forward to our first night." My heart skipped a beat, wondering for a moment if I'd accidentally voiced my thoughts. As if she had read my mind, Samantha laughed. "I'll be changed in a moment," she said, and shut the bedroom door. After a year together, we were comfortable enough to joke around like that, but her shyness hadn't changed. Just before she shut the door, I caught a glimpse of her blushing ears. After a little while, she called out, "I put it on. Come in." Upon Samantha's invitation, I entered the bedroom. This is my first time wearing a dress. "How do I look?" There stood Samantha, blushing yet gracefully wearing the red dress I bought. She looked stunning, her beauty resembling that of a goddess, leaving me speechless. "This is incredible. You look stunning," I finally managed to say. Samantha was that beautiful, enchanting, and alluring. Yet despite her appeal, she was blushing and fidgeting adorably. "Do I look weird?" she asked. "Not at all. You're beyond beautiful." "Really? Truly?" "Yeah, I'd rather not have you walk around outside like that, though." Upon hearing that, Samantha chuckled happily. "Oh, stop it, but I'm flattered. I'm just telling the truth. I mean, what if some strange guy comes over?" I muttered, a hint of anxiety in my voice. Samantha, in all her beauty, smiled. "In that case, you'll protect me, won't you?" Her blush was so very Samantha-like, and I chuckled in response. I resolved in my heart to protect Samantha at all costs and gently closed the bedroom door. From then on, time continued to pass. Welcome. Believe it or not, I took over my dad's restaurant. Quitting my job and paying off the debt was one thing, but it was no easy task to bring a reputation-damaged restaurant back to life. But now we transformed into a popular restaurant with lines from the morning. "Jack, take this to table 5. "Got it." "Samantha, how's the meal for table 8? "It's almost ready." Yes, it's Samantha in the kitchen now. When I explained the situation of the restaurant, Samantha said she wanted someone to try her cooking given the lack of popularity. "Jack, you praise my cooking, right? That gave me confidence." To be honest, I was convinced that if Samantha cooked for the restaurant, it would surely succeed. That's how much I trust Samantha's cooking skills. She's always loved cooking. She even admitted to gaining weight from eating too much of her own cooking. That's actually an ideal skill for running a diner. Even though the customer traffic had dwindled, it wasn't zero. I pleaded with our regulars to try Samantha's cooking. Her culinary skills were soon recognized and customers started to return. In fact, some people even come in daily to eat. I help out in the kitchen, but primarily I handle the management and front of house work. Creating a place where Samantha can fully utilize her talents, that's my job. I'm home. The restaurant door creaked open around the evening. It was still early for dinner, so there weren't many customers. Into this quiet scene entered a boy carrying a backpack. "Welcome back, Jake." "Dad, I'm hungry." "Ask your mom to make something." "Yes." The elementary school boy who just walked in is Jake, our son. Actually, after Samantha's successful diet, she got pregnant and gave birth to a healthy baby boy. "Mom, can you make something?" "Oh, you really ate a lot, didn't you?" "Just wait a bit." Our son, nagging for food because he's hungry, calls out to the kitchen. Watching the scene, I can't help but smile. Right now, I'm happy. I have my loving wife, my adorable son, and I get to live with them both in the restaurant I've always wanted to protect. Samantha and I. It's crude to say, but we married because of the debt. It's probably not what you'd call a good match, but I can say this from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad I married you. How did you find that? Scott came home with a somber expression. What happened? I asked, nearly spilling the tea I was drinking. His company's performance had been poor recently, and I knew there were major personnel changes due to restructuring. But I never imagined it would hit Scott directly. Still, I think it's important to support him in times like this as his wife. Well, I guess we just had some bad luck. Times are tough, but I'm working too, so don't worry, I responded cheerfully. My name is Catherine. I'm 50 years old and currently working full-time in the back office. I live with my husband, Scott, who is 2 years older than me, my high school sophomore daughter, Julia, and my 72-year-old mother-in-law, Ethel. Ethel and I don't always see eye to eye, but since I'm working outside the house, we only see each other when I'm home, so I've decided not to worry about it. I told my daughter, your dad is a bit down because of the demotion, but try to act normally around him. However, Scott started to vent his frustrations on me. It's often said that people vent their frustration on those closest to them, those they trust the most, and indeed, all of it was directed at me. The next day, as I was cleaning the hallway during my day off, he passed by and suddenly said, You've put on weight since we got married, haven't you? Huh? Well, I am 50 after all. Even the gynecology pamphlets say that women tend to gain weight around menopause. But according to my company's health checkup, I'm not overweight, I replied. Forget the health checkup, your figure is too unsightly. You're just being lazy. If you're overweight, I'm embarrassed to be seen with you with your barrel-like figure, he said. I was at a loss for words when my husband suddenly said such a heartless thing. Then he added, ugly, and locked himself in his room. What? What's happening all of a sudden? I pinched my own side. I could tell that I had gained more than enough weight. But why now, all of a sudden? I felt as if I had been pierced by an arrow that had come flying at me out of the blue, so much so that I forgot I was holding the mop in my hand. It was that much of a shock. The mop slipped from my hand, clattering loudly as it fell onto the hallway floor. From that day on, Scott's attitude towards me became increasingly harsh. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law seemed to have listened to that weekend's argument and she jumped on it, doubling the power of the criticism. As I was climbing the stairs with a laundry basket, intending to hang the clothes, my mother-in-law descended from the second floor. No, she didn't descend. She just waited at the top of the stairs. She'd remark things like, "Oh, how awful. If only you weren't so fat, we could pass each other on the stairs. I wouldn't have to wait here because only one person can pass due to your obesity." Furthermore, when I served fried chicken for dinner, she'd say, "Isn't this what's making you fat?" and would remove my plate. She'd suggest that the three of us who aren't overweight should eat my portion. My gynecologist told me after middle age, you either get fat or you lose weight, but my mother-in-law was on the thin side. She was skinny like a dried-up tree. But I was still able to tolerate her petty harassment. Such nuisances had been commonplace, so I was somewhat used to it. What really pierced my heart was my husband's behavior. Since that incident, my husband Scott stopped talking to me. There was no thank you or that was delicious. Even when I served him breakfast, he'd just silently eat and then get up. He'd silently enter and leave the bathroom. We still shared the bedroom, but he just turned his back and played with his smartphone. I couldn't stand being treated as if I were invisible. One night in the bedroom, I gathered my courage and asked, "Hey, did I do something to deserve being ignored?" He responded, "Not really, but I just don't want to talk to anyone other than humans. I don't want to be seen as a family with someone this fat. If you care about me, lose some weight." I was disheartened by his words, but it's inevitable after middle age, and you know it, right? Even though I walk 1.2 miles for commuting, I'm trying my best in my own way, I said, trying to defend myself. I was trying hard to combat the weight gain due to aging. I continued, but he coldly turned his back and said, "If the results aren't showing, it's the same as not trying. Don't talk to me anymore." From then on, he truly stopped responding to me. My mother-in-law continued to tease me about my weight, and whenever meat, fruits, or rice were on the table, she'd question, "Are you allowed to eat that? Are you aware?" I ended up only eating salads and boiled vegetables. Scott just watched all of this without saying a word, only moving his chopsticks in silence. I may be at the end of my marriage. I began packing my belongings in my spare time. If I'm going to be treated as invisible by Scott, Then maybe it would be better to just become invisible. When I told my daughter, I'm thinking about going back to my parents' house, she responded, yeah, I get it. I've seen Grandma and Dad always pick on you during mealtimes. It's hard to watch. I'll go with you, Mom. We can live at your parents' house, and I can still go to high school from there. Now tomorrow is the day when Scott's demotion officially kicks in, right after the winter break. Scott came over with a smile saying, let's have a drink, everyone. Just this once. Starting tomorrow, his life without subordinates will begin. I wonder if he finds that unbearable. But by this time, I've lost the will to go along with it. Even his plastered-on smile is irritating. Let's have a nightcap during dinner. I'll make wine spritzers, Scott said. This might be the first time he's spoken to me since the day after the announcement of his demotion. He added, Julia can have juice, and I'll make a wine spritzer for you too, Catherine. He placed the prepared wine spritzers at 3 spots on the table. Strange why all of a sudden, when Scott turned his back for a moment to look for the TV remote, I sniffed the drink he had made. What? I smelled it faintly, but it was definitely that smell. I recognized the faint smell because I've used it in cooking before. How could he think to make me drink this? I won't stand for it anymore. My mother-in-law's harassment, being ignored by my husband. I'll pay them all back. The wine spritzer pushed me over the edge. I'm sorry, could you get the camembert cheese from the fridge, Scott? It's from a local dairy farm and it's really delicious. I'm glad for the family time. Could you fetch it? Thinking he should at least do that much when I expressed joy at family time, Scott headed towards the fridge. While he was away and before my mother-in-law and daughter sat down, I switched my drink with the one on the seat to my right. The right seat, it was Ethel's seat. Scott returned with the cheese. Well, now that we've got the snacks ready, I'll call Julia and mother-in-law. I said loud enough for them to hear. Dinner's ready. The two of them made their way to the dining room and took their seats. Just a regular dinner. Except I didn't have any meatloaf or cornbread. Just salad, stewed chicken soup, cheese, and wine spritzer. Julia was having juice. Let's eat, Julia said, breaking the silence. Scott and my mother-in-law remained silent. I sipped on the wine spritzer Scott had made. He was watching me closely. I smiled and said, yeah, it's good. Huh. Scott murmured something under his breath, but I ignored him. I dug into the salad and then took another sip of the wine spritzer. Suddenly, a beam of red liquid shot out from my mother-in-law. It reminded me of Godzilla's fire breath. Wait. What, Grandma? What happened? My daughter stood up in surprise. Some of the liquid splashed on her salad. Did you choke? Are you okay? Julia grabbed a towel and quickly returned, but as she handed the towel to my mother-in-law, who wiped her mouth, she gasped. What? What is that? Grandma, your mouth, it looks like spicy cod roe. My mother-in-law began to freak out. Hey you, he put it in my drink. She shrieked and lunged at me. I coldly brushed her hand away. It wasn't me. Scott made it. Being brushed off and hearing that Scott was responsible for the drink must have been quite a shock. What? My mother-in-law screamed, her lips still covered in sauce, then turned to look at Scott. He was shaking. I leaned towards Scott, resting my hand on the table to exert some pressure. You thought you could hide it in the wine spritzer, didn't you? I could smell it a little because I've used it before. That was drop of hell, wasn't it? Drop of hell. I had bought it at a food fair in Alabama. It's not as famous as death sauce, but it has a hint of lime that I like for its homey taste. That hint of lime was what I smelled, which means he mixed a considerable amount into the drink. My mother-in-law must not have noticed due to the smell of the wine spritzer or thought the lime smell was part of the flavoring. That's probably why she drank it. But regardless, this was a seriously malicious prank, extremely vicious. Wait, Dad did that. Julia wore a shocked expression. I actually intended for Catherine to drink it, Scott confessed. You should exchange it with yours. My mother-in-law, frothing at the mouth, also wanted to push it onto me. No way am I switching to that dangerous drink, I said in a low voice, maintaining my pressure on Scott. Then I cornered him. Explain why on earth you thought of doing something so outrageous. He replied, you were staying chubby, and spicy food boosts metabolism, so I thought I'd make it. Wow, that's pathetic. What a lame excuse, I laughed sarcastically. Did he really think that explanation would be acceptable? Utterly embarrassing. Pressured, my husband hesitated and slightly moved his chair back. I'm not crazy. This is a legitimate reason to support your diet. Here, exchange this with your cup and drink it. I made it for you. I closed the distance. My husband retreated. What are you saying? As the one who made it, you should taste it to see if it's delicious. Come on. I got up, took the cup containing the drop of hell from in front of my mother-in-law, and threw it in front of my husband. After ignoring me and treating me like air for so long, did you think I would honestly drink something you made with a smile out of the blue? Didn't it occur to you in your empty head? Isn't it too childish? Come on, taste it. As the one who cooked it, you should take responsibility. I slammed the table. At that sound, my husband, thinking he could escape with a little more backpedaling, stood up from his chair and backed off. After a tense silence, a quiet voice spoke. Drink it. My husband and I turned to the source of the voice. The voice came from our daughter Julia. Julia started to speak as if she was squeezing out the words. Taking your frustration out on Mom, who supports you the most when things don't go well at work, and repeating cruel treatments. This is like a childish prank. I might not be supposed to say this to my parents, but it's too childish and unbearable to watch. Our daughter stood up too and continued, facing her father. Is it wrong to be overweight? Mom wakes up early and walks to work, and she also brings lunch, so it's not like she's not trying. Then she turned to her grandmother. And you're going along with it, taking away my mom's dinner like fried chicken. What Grandma is doing is like middle school seniors and juniors. It's embarrassing. At those words, a flustered Ethel began to make a confused excuse. That's not it. I'm just worried that Julia's mom will gain any more weight. She must have wanted to be seen favorably by her granddaughter. In fact, Ethel liked Julia. But this time, Julia was harsh. Compassion is something that is conveyed to the other person. It hurt to see Mom's dinner, despite Mom looking sad. I wouldn't call that compassion. Mom hasn't had any issues in her checkups, but still taking away her side dishes is just mean. Ethel fell silent. And another thing, Julia turned back to her father. Mom goes to the gynecologist every month and keeps herself active. But despite all that, Dad just ignores her because she's put on some weight. What's his deal? That atmosphere he creates by ignoring her makes the house feel so tense. Can't you see that? Even Colonel Sanders and Aunt Stella from the cookie ads are plump. There's a term called happy weight, you know. If she gets older and becomes a lovely grandmother like Aunt Stella, I'd be thrilled. When I have kids and she's become a grandma, wouldn't it be great to say, Mom, you've come to some happy weight, and laugh about it? That's my dream. Could you please not ruin it for me? Her gaze was cold as ice as she spoke matter-of-factly. However, her words warmed my heart like hot milk with cookies. It was a pathetic sight to see a father scorned by his own daughter. And one more thing. She directed her words at her father. If you're going to ignore someone because of the weight gain due to aging, you should realize that with your thinning hair, you could easily be overlooked yourself. The tension was palpable at the dinner table. Her biting words had brought a chill to the living room, making it feel so cold you'd think even a banana would freeze. It seemed she had said all she wanted to. After a sigh, she turned to me. That's enough, Mom. It's time to let it go. It will be better for you. Her words took me aback. It would be better if I let go. That's right. You should let it go. As I said earlier, my dream is to see you holding my child, saying you've gained some happy weight and laughing. For my sake, I want you to be happy because that's part of my dream. So please let it go. Be happy and fulfill my dream. Her words filled my heart. Every single thing she said made me so happy that I didn't care about being ignored by my husband, the fat shaming from my mother-in-law, or the drink issue. Warm tears streamed down my cheeks. Yes, you're right. My vision blurred with tears. Hurry up, Mom. She patted my back and gave me a gentle push. Okay. I went to the kitchen and brought back a document I had been hiding for some time. What? My husband let out a startled exclamation. After about a month of being ignored, I started thinking I have my bags packed. Let's each go our separate ways. I presented the divorce papers with only my name written on them. I just wanted you to lose some weight. If you had slimmed down as I asked, I would have been content. I only realized it was venting after Julia pointed it out, but since you didn't lose any weight, I thought I'd torment you more. I didn't mean for this to happen. My husband began to panic. It's on those who didn't notice until things got serious, and what they're so upset about is incredibly childish. My daughter Julia retorted sharply. Living without her adorable granddaughter is no joke for my mother-in-law. In a panic, my mother-in-law Ethel interjected, Hey, Julia. You want to keep living with us, your grandmothers, don't you? In a voice as soft as stroking a cat. To this, Julia said, I decline. I don't want to breathe the same air as people who act like middle schoolers anymore, shutting down Ethel's plea. Hold on. Okay, I got it. I'll taste it, as you say. I'll take responsibility as the one who cooked it. Scott picked up the glass placed before him and gulped it all down at once. Just like Ethel earlier, Scott spewed a stream of red liquid from his mouth, resulting in striking lobster-like lips. There, see. I took responsibility, right, Julia? Julia took a picture of both of them with their lobster lips on her phone and said, Both of you are so lame. Mom, let's go, before exiting the living room. Yeah, I decided to follow her. So what's left behind is a dinner table splashed here and there with wine cocktail mixed with a drop of hell and a husband and mother-in-law with red lobster lips. I returned to my parents' house with Julia. When we explained the situation at home, both my mother and father were furious and went to confront Scott and Ethel. They brought back the divorce papers and I ended up getting divorced. My ex-husband Scott hit rock bottom in his career and ended up spending his remaining years without any significant achievements. Apparently, he had a habit of ignoring things he didn't like, even with his subordinates, and that led to his demotion, which I heard about just recently. On the other hand, my ex-mother-in-law Ethel, who had been difficult and rarely went outside, seemed to be stuck in a stalemate in a two-person household. Eventually, I got a call saying, if you and Julia were here, it wouldn't be so stale. This is proven by the 17 years since Julia was born and we lived together. Please come back. I'll stop ignoring you. But there's no way I'm going back. Better gain weight while you can. Once you have grandchildren, you'll have more physical work to do, my mother joked with a smile. That's true. Today, as always, I'm walking to work. On the way, my boss drives by and stops the car, offering, Want a lift? No thanks, I'm on a diet. Just get in, Catherine. Yes, I found a new boyfriend. Both of us have been divorced once, but because of that, we've both been through a lot and understand each other well. Dieting is good and all, but it would be a problem if you're late, he says while driving. I've never been late before, I respond, puffing up my cheeks. He glances my way and prods my puffed up cheek with his finger. Give me the time you saved by riding in the car today for our conversation, he says, ever the talkative boyfriend.